Deep inside the thick, tangled jungle, where sunlight barely touched the ground, there was a place that seemed untouched by time. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and leaves, and the only sounds were the distant calls of birds and the rustling of small animals through the underbrush. But amid this peaceful wilderness, a heartbreaking noise disturbed the calm, soft, desperate whimpers that seemed almost impossible to ignore. Three German shepherds were chained to a sturdy tree in a small clearing. Their thick coats were matted with dirt and leaves, their ribs visible beneath tired fur. The heavy iron chains that bound their necks clinked faintly as they moved, the metal cold and unforgiving. The dogs tried to stand, but exhaustion weighed them down. Their eyes, full of pain and fear, scanned the jungle for any sign of help. The first shepherd, an older male with patches of gray around his muzzle, let out a low whine. His deep brown eyes flickered with hope and despair all at once. Beside him, a younger female dog whimpered softly, her body trembling as she pressed against the tree's rough bark. The smallest of the three, a young pup no older than a few months, lay curled in a corner, too weak to cry out, but still watching with wide, trusting eyes. No one knew how long they had been there. The jungle, dense and wild, had hidden them from the world. The chains were old and rusted, as if forgotten for years, but the dog's spirit was not yet broken. Despite their pain, their silent cries carried a message, a plea for freedom, for safety, for kindness. Nearby, a small stream gurgled gently, but the dogs couldn't reach it. Thirst and hunger gnawed at them relentlessly. Their ribs pressed painfully against the chains, and the rough bark left scars on their necks. Sometimes they would look toward the jungle's edge, hoping for a passerby, a miracle, someone who could save them. The jungle, however, was mostly empty that day. The sounds of wildlife continued as usual, unaware of the suffering hidden in their midst. But in the distance, faint voices began to approach. A family was making their way through the thick undergrowth, their footsteps soft but steady. The baby, riding in a carrier on the mother's chest, suddenly quieted. The baby's small ears had caught something. A soft whimper carried on the breeze. Instinctively, the child turned their head, eyes searching the shadows. The parents stopped and listened, unsure if it was their imagination. Then again, the cries came, more urgent this time. The family's guide, a local villager, paused and nodded toward the sound. "Dogs," he whispered. "They need help." Without hesitation, the family moved toward the sound, careful not to frighten the animals further. The baby's wide eyes shone with curiosity and compassion, the innocence of youth unaware of danger but full of pure heart. With every step, the soft cries grew louder. A symphony of pain and hope mingled in the quiet jungle air. When they finally reached the clearing, the sight stopped them cold. The three German shepherds were more fragile than anyone had imagined. The older dog's eyes met the baby's gaze, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a silent promise of rescue and love. The female dog limped closer, her trust cautious but undeniable. The little pup struggled to stand, its tail wagging weakly as if understanding that help had arrived. The family's hearts broke all at once. The baby reached out a trembling hand, touching the rough fur of the older shepherd. The dogs responded with soft whimpers and gentle licks, their first connection to kindness in what felt like forever. The jungle seemed to hold its breath as the family prepared to free the dogs from their chains. It was the beginning of a journey, one filled with challenges, tears, and healing. But for now, in that quiet clearing, hope had taken root. The silent cry was finally heard. The family had planned a simple weekend escape to the edge of the jungle, hoping to enjoy nature's calm away from the noise of the city. The parents carried their baby in a soft carrier, the little one's bright eyes filled with wonder at the world around them. Birds sang overhead, and the sun filtered through the canopy in golden beams, painting patches of warmth on the forest floor. But as they walked deeper into the trees, the gentle hum of nature was interrupted by a faint, heartbreaking sound. It was subtle at first, like the whisper of the wind, but then it grew louder, a series of soft, desperate cries. The baby's face suddenly changed, their small head turning sharply toward the noise. Instinctively, the parents stopped and looked around, puzzled. Did you hear that? The mother asked quietly, her voice full of concern. I think it's coming from over there, the father replied, pointing toward a narrow path tangled with vines and shadows. The family's guide, a local villager familiar with the area, furrowed his brow. Sounds like animals in distress. Maybe dogs or wolves, he said cautiously. Without hesitation, the family decided to follow the cries, their footsteps slow and careful on the soft jungle floor. The baby, cradled in the mother's arms now, cooed softly as if sensing something important. Each step deeper into the jungle seemed to thicken the air with tension and anticipation. The cries grew louder and more urgent, pulling the family forward like a magnetic force. The jungle was alive around them. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of monkeys, and the buzz of insects filled the air. But the family's focus was on the mysterious sounds ahead. Finally, after winding through thick bushes and low-hanging branches, they arrived at a small clearing. The sight that greeted them was both shocking and heartbreaking. 3 German shepherds were chained to a large tree, their bodies weak and trembling. The older dog had a deep wound on its leg, crusted with dirt and dried blood. The female's eyes were red and tired, and the small puppy was lying on the ground, shivering but watching with bright, trusting eyes. The parents exchanged worried glances. How could someone leave them here like this? The father whispered, anger and sadness mixing in his voice. The baby reached out a tiny hand, making gentle contact with the older dog's fur. The dog responded immediately, nuzzling the child's palm as if recognizing the kindness in the touch. The baby's innocent action seemed to break through the dog's fear. The female moved closer, wagging her tail slowly, and even the pup struggled to rise, eager to be near the child. We need to get them out of here, the mother said firmly, scanning the rusty chains holding the dogs captive. The family knew the jungle could be dangerous. Wild animals, poisonous plants, and rough terrain. But the dog's desperate situation outweighed all concerns. The guide nodded. I'll help with the chains, he said, pulling out a small toolkit from his bag. We don't have much time. As the guide worked on the chains, the baby stayed close to the dogs, offering comfort in the form of quiet coos and soft touches. The dogs, sensing safety for the first time in a long while, relaxed slightly. Their eyes, once clouded with fear, now showed a glimmer of hope. The family carefully removed dirt and debris from the dog's wounds, using the water from their bottles to clean them gently. The baby's laughter, light and pure, echoed in the clearing, as if casting a protective spell over the fragile scene. Though the jungle was a wild place, filled with unknown dangers, here in that moment was a spark of humanity, compassion, and determination. The family had stumbled upon a story of pain and neglect, but they also found an opportunity to rewrite it, to turn tears into smiles and despair into hope. As the chains finally fell away with a loud clink, the dogs stood up shakily, their tails wagging slowly but surely. The baby reached out once more, and the dogs gathered around, licking and nuzzling the tiny hands as if saying thank you. The family looked at each other, tears welling in their eyes. They knew this was just the beginning, a beginning full of promise, challenges, and the power of love that could heal even the deepest wounds. What the baby did next, and how the family's lives would change forever, was a story waiting to unfold. The clearing seemed to hold its breath as the family stood quietly, taking in the sight of the 3 German shepherds. The jungle's usual chorus of sounds faded into the background, replaced by the soft whimpers and panting of the exhausted dogs. Their eyes, so full of pain moments ago, now flickered with cautious hope. The baby, still nestled safely in the mother's arms, reached out a small, trembling hand toward the nearest dog, the older male with the graying muzzle. The dog lowered his head slowly, as if unsure whether to trust this new, gentle presence. But when the baby's fingers brushed the rough fur, something changed. The dog's tail gave a small wag, the first sign of trust in what felt like forever. The mother smiled softly, encouraging the baby with a quiet, good boy. The father crouched down carefully, keeping his movements slow and calm so as not to startle the animals. He spoke gently, his voice barely above a whisper. It's okay, you're safe now. The female dog, still chained but drawn by the baby's innocence, limped closer. Her eyes shone with gratitude and relief. The smallest pup, though weak, managed to crawl toward the family, pushing itself up on shaky legs. The baby giggled softly, reaching out again to touch the little one's fur. The dog's responses were slow but unmistakable. This was a moment of connection, one that bridged the long gap of loneliness and suffering they had endured. The baby's natural kindness had broken through the wall of fear, showing the dogs that not all humans were cruel. But the chains remained, heavy, cold, and unyielding. They bound the dogs not only physically but emotionally, a constant reminder of their captivity. The family knew freeing them would be difficult, but they refused to leave without trying. The guide stepped forward, pulling out a small set of tools from his backpack. The rusted chains clinked loudly as he worked to loosen the locks. Each click was like a countdown to freedom, but it was slow going. Years of neglect had made the metal stiff and fragile. The baby sat quietly on the ground nearby, watching with wide eyes. Though too young to understand the full gravity of the situation, the child's presence seemed to offer comfort to the dogs. The female rested her head on the baby's lap, and the pup curled up beside them, leaning into the warmth. While the guide worked, the parents did their best to soothe the dogs. The father gently stroked the older dog's head, murmuring calming words. The mother tore strips from her shirt to gently bandage the female's injured leg. It was clear the dogs had been through terrible neglect. No one had cared for them for a long time. The baby's laughter, soft and pure, filled the clearing like a ray of sunshine. It was a sound that seemed to breathe life back into the tired dogs, a reminder that kindness still existed in the world. The dogs responded in kind, their tails wagging slowly, their eyes brightening. Suddenly, the guide gave a small shout of triumph. The first lock was free. The chain fell away with a sharp clink, and the older dog stepped forward tentatively, testing his freedom. He stood tall for the first time in what felt like ages, his tail wagging with new energy. Encouraged by this, the guide focused on the second lock. The female dog watched intently, her eyes fixed on the baby. As the chains came off, she tried to stand. Though her injured leg made it painful, the mother offered support, helping her steady on shaky paws. The pup was the last. Though weakest, the baby's gentle touch gave it strength. The guide carefully removed the final chains, and the little dog gave a soft bark of relief, wagging its tail furiously despite its weakness. The family and dogs were now free from the chains, but their journey was just beginning. The jungle seemed less intimidating now, filled with the promise of hope and healing. The baby's brave curiosity had sparked a chain reaction of kindness that would change all their lives forever. With the dogs still shaky but free, the family began the careful trek back through the jungle, each step a new beginning. The first approach had been delicate, but it had opened a door to rescue, trust, and love. The moment felt fragile. The dogs were free from the chains, but the wounds of captivity were still raw. The clearing, once a place of despair, now buzzed quietly with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The family gathered their courage, knowing this was only the beginning of a difficult journey. The guide examined the heavy iron chains still clutched in his hands. Although the dogs were no longer physically restrained, the scars left behind were deeper than any metal could hold. The rusty locks had taken effort and patience to break free, but the emotional chains of fear and mistrust would take longer to shatter. The baby, sitting close to the female dog, giggled softly as the pup attempted to play, albeit weakly. The sight lifted the spirits of the adults, who exchanged hopeful glances. "We have to keep moving," the father said firmly, but gently. "These dogs have been through so much." Carrying water bottles and a small first aid kit, the mother carefully cleaned the dog's wounds. The female's injured leg was swollen and raw, and the older dog's eyes reflected pain despite his brave face. The baby reached out to touch the mother's hand, sensing her concern. "We'll get you somewhere safe," the mother whispered, her voice steady but tender. She wrapped the injured leg loosely with a cloth torn from her shirt, careful not to cause more pain. The guide scanned the jungle, wary of what might be lurking beyond the trees. The path back was rough and unfamiliar. The jungle floor was uneven, tangled with roots and covered in thick leaves. The dogs moved slowly, some steps shaky and uncertain. The baby, cradled in the mother's arms, reached down often to touch the dogs' heads, offering warmth and reassurance. As they made their way through the thick foliage, the family realized the true challenge was just beginning. The dogs were physically weak, their bodies starved of proper care and attention. Their spirits, while hopeful, still carried the heavy weight of their past. The guide told stories of other rescues he had helped with, but this was different. These dogs had been left in the jungle, alone and forgotten, and the jungle was no place for animals used to human care and companionship. The family agreed they had to move quickly but carefully to a place where the dogs could heal. Suddenly, a noise startled them, a rustle nearby, the snap of a twig. The dogs perked up, their instincts sharp despite their weakness. The guide stepped forward, brandishing a sturdy stick as a makeshift protection. The family held the dogs close, the baby's small hands gripping the mother's shirt tightly. After a tense moment, a small group of monkeys appeared, curious but harmless. Laughter broke the tension, the family relieved and grateful. This small incident reminded them of the jungle's unpredictable nature and the fragility of the dog's new freedom. The baby's laughter, pure and untainted, was a source of strength for everyone. It was as if the child carried an invisible shield of hope that kept fear at bay. The dogs, once silent and scared, now barked softly in response, their tails wagging with renewed energy. The family finally reached a small clearing near the jungle's edge, where sunlight spilled like a warm embrace. It was a place of promise, a first step toward healing. The mother laid out a blanket and offered the dogs fresh water and food they had brought. The dogs eagerly drank and ate, their eyes shining with gratitude. The baby sat beside them, hands gently stroking fur now soft with the first signs of care. The older dog rested his head on the baby's lap, a silent thank you in that quiet moment. Though the chains were gone, the journey to full freedom was just beginning. The struggle to free was more than physical, it was emotional, a process of rebuilding trust, hope, and life. The family knew they had to be patient, kind, and strong. As night fell and the jungle settled into a peaceful silence, the family kept watch over their new friends. The baby's soft breathing mixed with the dog's gentle sighs, creating a melody of healing and new beginnings. In that quiet clearing, surrounded by the wild beauty of the jungle, a promise was made. No one would ever abandon these dogs again. Together, they would face whatever came next. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden glow through the jungle canopy as the family settled into the small clearing near the edge of the trees. The dogs, though exhausted, moved with a newfound sense of hope and cautious excitement. The chains that once held them captive lay on the ground, silent witnesses to their past suffering. The older German shepherd, who had carried the weight of captivity the longest, stretched his tired legs and shook off the dust. His eyes, once dull and defeated, now glimmered with a quiet strength. Beside him, the female dog limped forward, supported gently by the mother's hand as she tended to the swelling on her leg. The pup, still fragile but determined, wagged its tail eagerly, circling the baby with a joyful bark. For the first time in what felt like forever, the dogs were free. Free to move, to breathe, to live without fear. The baby's laughter rang out through the clearing, a sound so pure and full of life that it seemed to heal the broken spirits around them. The dogs responded by nuzzling the child, their rough tongues gently licking tiny fingers, a silent thank you that needed no words. The father looked on, his heart swelling with pride and relief. "We did it," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "They're free." But freedom wasn't just about breaking chains or stepping into the open. It was about reclaiming trust, and that would take time. The dog's eyes still held shadows of their past, moments of fear when sudden noises made them flinch, or when unfamiliar hands reached toward them. The mother knelt beside the dogs, speaking softly as she offered fresh water and food. The animals ate hungrily but carefully, their bodies still weak from neglect. The baby sat nearby, watching with wide eyes and occasionally reaching out to stroke a furred head or rub a tired ear. The older dog leaned against the baby's legs, a silent gesture of connection. The female rested her head on the mother's lap, sighing softly, while the pup explored the edges of the blanket with curious sniffs and gentle paw taps. The family knew that while the moment of freedom had been reached, the journey to healing was just beginning. They discussed plans quietly: trips to the vet, safe shelter, food, and time to regain strength. The guide stayed alert, watching the jungle's edge, mindful of the dangers that still lurked beyond. As twilight deepened, the clearing became a haven of peace. The sounds of the jungle softened, replaced by the rhythmic breathing of the dogs and the baby's soft coos. The family wrapped the dogs in warm blankets, ensuring they were comfortable and protected through the night. The father sat beside the fire they carefully built, reflecting on how quickly their lives had changed. Only hours before, they had been strangers passing through the jungle. Now they were protectors, guardians of three souls who had endured so much. The baby's eyes grew heavy with sleep, but even in dreams, the child seemed connected to the dogs, reaching out with tiny hands as if to promise lifelong friendship. Through the night, the dogs slept uneasily, not out of fear, but out of adjustment. They were learning what it meant to be safe, to trust again, and to hope for a better tomorrow. The family stayed close, their presence a steady comfort. When dawn finally broke, the golden light revealed a small miracle. The dogs, though tired, were stronger, their spirits lifted by the family's love and care. The baby's laughter greeted the new day, a joyful soundtrack that filled the clearing with warmth and promise. In that moment, everyone understood. Freedom was more than just a physical release. It was a rebirth, a chance to rewrite a story filled with pain into one of love, healing, and endless possibility. The moment of freedom had arrived, and with it, a new beginning, not just for the dogs, but for the family who had chosen to answer their silent cries. The morning sun filtered gently through the jungle canopy, casting warm light on the small clearing where the family and the three German shepherds rested. The air was filled with a quiet sense of hope, as if the jungle itself recognized that a new chapter was beginning. The family had prepared for this moment, with food, clean water, and basic medical supplies brought along just in case. The dogs, still fragile but visibly more relaxed than the night before, responded to the care with tentative trust. The baby's gentle touch seemed to weave a soothing magic, calming their restless spirits. The mother carefully inspected the female dog's injured leg, cleaning the wound with a soft cloth and applying an herbal ointment the guide had recommended. The older dog lay nearby, eyes half closed, accepting the gentle strokes on his head. The pup, with renewed energy, explored the edges of the blanket, occasionally curling back toward the baby's warmth. "We need to get them to a vet as soon as possible," the father said, his voice steady but full of concern. "They're going to need more than just basic care." The guide nodded in agreement. The jungle isn't safe for them anymore. We have to move carefully but quickly. With the dogs resting, the family packed up their belongings, preparing for the slow trek back to the village where help awaited. The baby, now sleepy but peaceful, was nestled securely in the mother's arms. The dogs followed slowly, their legs unsteady but eager to move towards safety. As they walked, the jungle around them seemed alive with renewed energy. Birds chirped louder, the leaves shimmered with fresh light, and even the wind whispered softly through the trees. It was as if nature was cheering on the journey of healing that had begun. The father carried a small satchel filled with food and water for the dogs, while the guide led the way along safer paths. The mother talked softly to the dogs, her voice a calming balm, encouraging each step forward. The older dog walked with quiet dignity, despite the scars that marked his body. The female winced occasionally, but her spirit remained unbroken. The pup bounced with cautious joy, sensing the change from captivity to care. The baby's soft laughter and gentle coos lifted everyone's spirits, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light and love could break through. The family exchanged smiles, knowing this was not just a rescue, it was a journey toward healing for all of them. The path was not easy. Thick roots threatened to trip the dogs, and sudden noises sometimes caused them to flinch. The family remained patient, adjusting their pace and providing constant reassurance. The baby's presence was a comforting constant, a symbol of innocence and hope that inspired everyone to keep going. Hours passed, and the village came into view. A cluster of simple homes nestled at the jungle's edge. As they approached, villagers stopped and stared, their expressions a mix of surprise and concern at the sight of the worn but free dogs. Word spread quickly, and soon a kind veterinarian arrived, ready to help. The family watched with relief as the vet examined each dog thoroughly, checking wounds, administering vaccines, and offering medicine to fight infection and pain. The dogs, though tired, responded well, their bodies beginning to heal under gentle hands. The vet smiled warmly at the family. "You've done something incredible. These dogs have a chance now because of you." The baby, now wide awake, reached out to touch the vet's hand, a silent promise that these dogs would never be forgotten again. As night fell over the village, the dogs rested comfortably in a small shelter the family had arranged. Blankets and soft bedding replaced the rough ground of the jungle, and fresh water flowed freely. The family stayed close, ready to provide the love and care the dogs had missed for so long. The healing journey was far from over, but the first steps had been taken, steps filled with hope, resilience, and the power of compassion. The once silent cries of the chained dogs had been answered, and now their story was being rewritten with kindness and courage. And through it all, the baby's innocent heart remained a guiding light, a reminder that even the smallest among us can make the biggest difference. Days passed in the village as the dogs slowly regained their strength. The wounds on the female's leg began to heal, and the older dog's tired eyes shone brighter with each passing moment. The pup, full of energy, chased after butterflies near the shelter, a joyous sign of recovery. The family had become inseparable from the dogs. The baby, with innocent curiosity and boundless love, was at the heart of their transformation. Every day, the child's gentle hands and cheerful laughter helped the dogs feel safe again, a beacon of light in their dark past. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in soft pink and orange hues, a sudden commotion broke the peaceful village calm. Loud barking erupted from the edge of the jungle, sharp and frantic. Villagers looked toward the noise, eyes wide with concern. The dogs perked up immediately, their instincts kicking in. The older German shepherd growled low in his throat, protective and alert. The female stood firm, her eyes scanning the tree line, while the pup whimpered nervously but stayed close to the baby's side. The family rose quickly, moving toward the source of the noise. The baby, curious and fearless despite their young age, crawled forward on small hands and knees, following the dog's urgent energy. "Wait," the mother said gently, trying to keep the child safe. But the baby's eyes were fixed ahead, determined and wide with focus. It was as if the child understood something important. They reached the jungle edge to find a small group of village children trapped behind a fallen tree branch, unable to climb over or move the heavy wood blocking their path. The children were frightened, calling for help as the shadows grew longer. The dogs immediately sprang into action. The older dog barked loudly, drawing the attention of nearby adults who rushed over with tools to help. The female dog stood protectively by the trapped children, while the pup circled anxiously, sensing the urgency. The baby crawled forward, reaching out with tiny hands toward the fallen branch. With surprising strength and determination, the child tried to push it, a brave gesture that seemed impossible for someone so small. The villagers watched in awe, their hearts swelling with admiration. The baby's fearless spirit and the dog's protective instincts created a powerful scene of hope and courage. The father called out to the villagers, "We need to work together to move this. The baby is trying to help." Inspired by the child's bravery, the villagers rallied quickly, lifting the branch and freeing the trapped children. As the last child scrambled safely to the other side, cheers erupted. The dogs barked joyfully, tails wagging furiously, while the baby clapped with delight, eyes sparkling with happiness. In that moment, the bond between the family, the dogs, and the village was stronger than ever. The baby's brave act had reminded everyone of the power of hope, kindness, and courage, no matter how small or young. The village elders praised the family, and especially the child, for their bravery and compassion. "This little one has a heart bigger than the jungle," one elder said with a smile. The dogs, once silent victims, had become heroes too, protectors of the village and symbols of resilience. Their journey from chains to freedom was not just their own. It was a story that touched every heart in the community. As night fell, the family and dogs rested peacefully together. The baby's quiet breathing mingled with the soft snores of the dogs, a melody of trust and love that promised a brighter future. The baby's brave act was a turning point, a reminder that even in the face of fear and uncertainty, courage and kindness could light the way forward. And for the dogs, now free and loved, it was proof that sometimes the smallest hands can change the world. The dawn broke softly over the village, painting the sky with gentle shades of pink and gold. The three German shepherds stirred from their restful sleep, their bodies stronger, their spirits lighter than they had been in a long time. The chains that had bound them were gone, but more importantly, the chains of fear and loneliness had begun to break as well. The family gathered around the dogs, their faces glowing with love and hope. The baby, now more confident and curious each day, reached out with eager hands to touch each dog's fur. The dogs responded with gentle nudges and soft, thankful eyes. Here in this quiet moment, everyone understood that this was not just a rescue, it was the start of something new. The villagers came together that morning, eager to welcome the dogs as part of their community. Children ran alongside the shelter where the dogs now lived, laughing and playing with them. The dogs, once wary and withdrawn, blossomed in this warm embrace of kindness and attention. The father spoke to the crowd gathered around, his voice filled with emotion. These dogs endured so much pain and hardship, but today they stand with us, healed not just by medicine, but by love and care. It's a reminder that no matter how dark things seem, there is always hope. The mother nodded, her eyes shining with tears. We can all be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. These dogs are survivors, and together, we will make sure they never face such cruelty again. The baby crawled over to the older German shepherd, who lowered his head so the child could hug him gently. It was a moment of pure connection, innocence meeting wisdom, vulnerability meeting strength. The family decided to stay in the village for a time, dedicating themselves to caring for the dogs and helping others in need. The guide offered to train villagers in animal care, turning their small community into a sanctuary for rescued animals. The dogs became teachers too, showing through their recovery the power of patience, kindness, and resilience. Weeks turned into months, and the dogs thrived. The older dog found joy in long walks. The female dog's leg healed fully, and the pup grew into a lively companion. The baby grew alongside them, each day exploring the world with wonder and love. The villagers often gathered to hear the story of the rescue, told time and again as a testament to courage and compassion. The tale of the three chained German shepherds crying for help in the jungle and the brave baby who changed everything became a legend, one that inspired everyone who heard it. The baby's innocent bravery had sparked a chain reaction, uniting humans and animals in a bond stronger than chains. It was a story of transformation, of suffering turned into joy, fear turned into trust, and captivity turned into freedom. One evening, as the sun set behind the trees, the family sat with the dogs by the fire. The baby's head rested against the older dog's soft fur. The female lay close to the mother's side, and the pup nestled warmly by the father's feet. The jungle sounds hummed gently around them, no longer threatening but soothing. The mother whispered softly, "This is just the beginning. Together, we will protect them and all those who need a second chance." The father smiled and added, "Because every life matters and every act of kindness can change the world." The dog's eyes reflected the flickering firelight, filled with peace and hope. The baby's gentle breath blended with theirs in perfect harmony, a family united by love, healed by compassion, and ready to face whatever lay ahead. And so, the story ended not with chains, but with freedom, not with tears, but with laughter, not with despair, but with a new beginning full of promise, love, and endless possibilities.